Hello, this is Fernando, and as usual, we're gonna talk millennials. Today, I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about an and a little episode that I encountered myself with while doing this research. It was very interesting. I met this lady on a retirement home place. If my memory serves, her name was Rachael. She was a nice, not so old lady. She was probably in her early 60s back then. And she was living in a retirement home because she didn't want to be home. She had two kids, both millennials. One was on the elderly side, like an older millennial. The other one was a younger millennial, and she was having a lot of trouble with them. And when I talked to her, it was heartbreaking to know what was going on with her life. I'm gonna start by saying that she went through a lot with those kids. And this is some of the things that we talked about in the previous videos. One of the things she mentioned is that when her older kid, who just happened to be a boy, was playing in the play place outside of her school, and she needed to take him home. He didn't want to go home. So, since he didn't want to go home, because of course he wanted to keep playing, but he needed to do his homework. And he didn't want to go home. So Mama eventually just dragged him home to put him to do homework. Well, what happened was that this kid called the cops. He called the cops on his mom. His mom was arrested for about 3 to 4 days. And of course, this little incident gave him power. Mama couldn't talk to him bad because he always threatened her by calling the police. Since he had already done it once, he saw the power he had. Unfortunately, as time went on, he grew up pretty much with nobody guiding him to the things that he needed to do and things that he couldn't do. Because he didn't have nobody to guide him on how to do those things. Mama couldn't tell him anything, Dad couldn't tell him anything, and it got to a point that he grew up like a wild animal. And I'm not saying he was wild like an animal. I'm not trying to refer to him as an animal. I'm trying to refer to him as a wild person with no guidance whatsoever. Unfortunately, over time, he influenced his sister, who just happened to be slightly younger than him, and he was able to manipulate her, telling her that she could call the cops anytime she wanted to, and Mama was going to be arrested. So Mama was always threatened every time she tried to discipline her own kids. Unfortunately, back then, things were different than they are now. But that created an impact in her family. Because of the situation of being disciplined was not correct at home, he became a drug addict. He became a drug addict to meth. That was his drug that he used. And of course, he was addicted to it. So, because he was addicted to it, he always needed money. He was always hyper. He was always in the lookout because he always needed the meth somehow. And of course, he was not doing very well. He couldn't keep a job. He was most likely like a homeless, but he was not dressed up like the raggedy because he had people that he was, staying with, occasionally. And occasionally she stayed home. He stayed home with his mom. Even though his mom didn't want him there. But again, because of the fear that she had in the past, she just had no option. So she heard talking to both of them at one point in her life, and what they talked about was heartbreaking. They were talking about killing their own mother because they wanted to inherit her home soon. Again, he was a drug addict. I don't know the specifics on her, but she wasn't doing very well either. So their plan to get rid of her. So what she did is immediately she got information to go into the retirement home, and she rented the place. After she rented the place, neither one of them could go home anymore because they were already warned that she doesn't live there no more. And it was hard. Over time, she made a deal with the tenants and sold them their home for a very reasonable price, which is a lot less than the market price at the time. I don't remember the numbers, but I know it was a very good price. They didn't know that. They were always expecting mama to die so they can inherit the house. The point I'm trying to make with this is how bad things were because of the laws created, and the laws were not clear on how to be used, especially for parents. Over time, this kid, who was not a kid anymore, pretty much got lost. The moment she couldn't go back to her mom's house, then he started to deteriorate himself a little bit more. He wasn't able to take a shower. He wasn't able to stay in some place, sometimes. So he stays in the streets. That's when he started losing himself. Since he started losing himself, he got to a point that he wanted to visit his mom at the retirement place home. But of course, she was not going to allow that to happen because all he wanted to do is get rid of her. She knew that. And this is some of the points that I arrived with my conclusions that we could have done better in our lives. Now we have a much better understanding. Even the authorities guide us on, yeah, you can snap the kids, in the behind a couple of times, but do not leave any marks. As a parent, you don't want to hurt your kids. But at the same time, if you don't discipline them, they can get lost. Like this kid that I'm telling you guys about, Rachael's son. He lost her way. And the reason why he lost her way is because he was able to manipulate the laws towards his advantage. Matter of fact, this will be towards his disadvantage. And this is the part that is sad. This is one of the things that I'm fighting for. Although I'm not going to be agree with in most of the time that I say, most of the things that I say, but I hope at least you consider some of the methods that we used in the past, and hopefully we can change them. I'm not saying changing completely, but at least modifying so we can do a better job with it. Hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one, and hopefully we're going to be able to create a better world for the future. See you guys on the next one.